They said, "We're scaling it back this year. No kids." I said nothing until my cousin tagged me in a video. The house was full of children. Even the neighbors' teenagers were there. My daughter cried. I took a picture of a gift worth $6,000 and texted, "Dropping these at Goodwill." Within 50 minutes, my dad showed up red-faced. I opened the door and saw, "They'll regret this for a long, long time." Not because I plan to make their lives miserable, but because I've finally decided to stop shielding them from the consequences of their own behavior. What they did to me and Ellie wasn't a mistake. It was a decision, one they made together behind my back. And now the mask is off. It started with a phone call from my mother 2 weeks before their big 40th anniversary party. She said they were scaling it back this year, just a small gathering, adults only. "We want it quiet, just the core group," she told me. "No kids running around. You understand, right?" I said I did and hung up. Ellie had already been working on a scrapbook for them. She's 10, and she has this quiet, thoughtful way about her. For 3 weeks, she came home from school, went straight to the dining table, and carefully pieced together photos, old newspaper clippings, little quotes, press flowers. She even made space for all the kids in the family to sign their names. She was so proud of it. I didn't tell her she wasn't invited. I couldn't. I just said we'd be celebrating another way this year, something more grown up. She didn't complain. She just kept working on her gift. Saturday night came. We stayed home, watched a movie, ate popcorn. I didn't open Instagram. I didn't check texts. I avoided it all. But the next morning, I got tagged in a story by my cousin Daniel. I clicked on it without thinking, and there was a giant rented tent in my parents' backyard. Champagne fountains, fairy lights, a live jazz band, a balloon arch spelling out 40 years of love, and kids everywhere. Amanda's twins were dancing in front of the band. Jocelyn's youngest was smashing cupcakes into his hair, while my dad laughed. Even the neighbors' teenagers were doing TikToks in the background. I watched the video 3 times before Ellie walked in and saw it. She didn't ask questions. She just looked at the screen, then turned and went back to her room. I waited 10 minutes before I walked in. The scrapbook was sitting on her desk, perfectly wrapped with silver ribbon. She had drawn little flowers on the tag, and in her neat handwriting, "To Grandma and Grandpa, I love you." I stood there for a long time. Then I walked into my closet and took out the gift I had meant to surprise my parents with: a trip to Hawaii. 5 nights at a 5-star resort, ocean view, spa credits included. $6,000. All prepaid, non-refundable. I snapped a photo of the envelope and sent it to the family group chat. No caption, just the image. Then I followed up with, "Dropping these at Goodwill." Nothing for nearly an hour. Then came the pounding at my front door. It was my dad. No jacket, no smile, just red-faced and rattled. He said my name like it meant something, like it still carried weight. But standing there watching him stumble over excuses, I realized something I hadn't let myself believe before. They only treated me like family when they needed something. And now that was over. My dad didn't even wait for me to invite him in. He stood there on my porch like he expected the door to fix things. Like the last 24 hours hadn't happened. Like I hadn't just watched Ellie stare at a screen while her face slowly crumbled. He started talking before I said a word. Something about how Amanda handled the invites. How Jocelyn wasn't even sure who was coming. How they assumed it would just be easier without kids. Easier. As if excluding Ellie from her grandparents' anniversary was a matter of convenience. I didn't move. I didn't give him an inch. He stopped, waited for a reaction, then muttered something about how it was just a misunderstanding, and left. But that moment snapped something inside me that had been stretched too thin for too long. Because they always came around when they needed something. I remembered the night my mom called crying after her surgery, needing someone to help her into bed. Amanda didn't answer. Jocelyn said she was out of town. I drove across the city at midnight and stayed for 3 days. Didn't even pack a bag. I remembered when my dad's transmission blew out, and he just needed something reliable to get to work. I used my credit, put down the deposit, paid the first 6 months of insurance, registered the car in his name to keep it simple. He never even said thank you. Then there were the money transfers that started off as just this once and turned into an endless cycle of guilt and expectation. Amanda's mortgage shortfalls, Jocelyn's student loans, car repairs, vacations booked before rent was paid. They always came to me because they knew I'd say yes, and when I didn't, they'd freeze me out. But this time, they hadn't just frozen me out. They'd excluded Ellie. They hadn't just hurt me, they humiliated her, and that changed everything. I didn't even wait until morning. That night, I logged into my bank account and canceled the automatic payments on the car insurance. Then I removed the monthly transfer I'd set up to cover Amanda's student loan interest. I flagged Jocelyn's Venmo handle as blocked. Petty? Maybe. Necessary? Absolutely. The next morning, I drafted a simple message and sent it to both of my sisters. Going forward, I won't be covering any financial support for either of you. I wish you both the best. Amanda replied 2 hours later with nothing but a thumbs up emoji. Jocelyn left me on read. By evening, my mom called. I didn't pick up. That same night, Ellie asked if Grandma and Grandpa liked her scrapbook. I sat down beside her and told her the truth, that they didn't see it, that they didn't want kids at the party, even though a bunch of other kids were there. I didn't sugarcoat it. She's 10, but she's not stupid. She didn't cry, not in front of me. She just said, maybe we can give it to someone who actually wants it. That sentence felt like a knife, not because it was harsh, but because she meant it. They'd burned the last piece of Goodwill I had left. All the late-night phone calls, the rushed wires, the canceled plans, the quiet sacrifices, all of it ended here. I knew what had to come next. They weren't just going to feel a cold shoulder. They were about to feel what life was like without me holding everything together. By Tuesday morning, things started moving fast. My mother texted first, just a casual, "Hey, can we talk?" Like we hadn't just been pretending my child didn't exist. I ignored it. A few hours later, Amanda sent a photo of her youngest with a huge grin, holding up a drawing. Look what Ava made for her cousin Ellie. No caption, no explanation. I didn't respond. That evening, Jocelyn finally broke her silence with a paragraph about how she had no idea kids were going to be there and how she felt so bad about it. But she didn't apologize, not really. Just enough to test if the door was cracked open. Then came the kicker. On Wednesday, my dad texted, having issues with the insurance payment on the car. Did it not go through? I let that one sit until Thursday. Then I wrote, I canceled it. Since I won't be covering anything anymore, I suggest switching it over to your account. No reply. By Friday, the group chat that had been dead silent all week suddenly lit up. Pictures of Ellie, old ones. Amanda digging up memories from 5 years ago. Ellie in a Halloween costume. Ellie with frosting on her face. Ellie holding Amanda's twins when they were babies. Then Jocelyn followed with a long, overly warm message about how we should plan something with all the kids soon. No mention of the party, no accountability, just pure deflection. I knew what they were doing. They were trying to use Ellie to wedge their way back in because they thought that even if I was mad, I wouldn't let my daughter be the reason the family drifted apart. But they already made that decision, so I texted back, "We're taking some space. Please don't involve Ellie in this." That's when things turned. That same evening, my dad showed up again, this time with my mom. They didn't even ring the bell, just stood outside until I noticed them through the kitchen window. I opened the door enough to hear my mom say, "Can we at least talk inside?" I didn't move. She said they made a mistake, that they didn't mean to hurt Ellie, that things just got miscommunicated. Then my dad added something that finally made me speak. He said, "It's not like we excluded her on purpose." I looked him dead in the eye and said, "Yes, you did." Then I handed him a manila envelope, title and registration documents for the SUV. I had been tracking this moment for days. The car was still in his name, but it had been fully paid off by me. Every payment, every service. And I had prepared a legal transfer to reclaim ownership. It was signed. All I needed was his signature to move it into my name. "I'm taking the car back," I said. "You can leave the keys in the mailbox by Monday." He didn't argue, not because he agreed, but because he realized I wasn't bluffing anymore. That weekend, Ellie and I cleaned out the garage. She found an old beach towel we'd bought in Maui years ago during a trip they didn't join us on. She asked if we could go back someday. I said yes. What I didn't tell her was that I had originally planned to send my parents there with that $6,000 gift. Not anymore, because they would never see that trip. Not the view, not the spa, not the ocean breeze. They'd just see what it looks like when the person they always expected to come through for them finally doesn't. I thought it would take weeks for the fallout to begin, but it only took 3 days. The keys to the car appeared in my mailbox Monday morning. No note, no knock, just silence. They knew it was over, or at least they thought they did. What I didn't expect was what came next. Tuesday afternoon, Ellie's school called me. Apparently, someone had dropped off a surprise lunch for her. Chick-fil-A, a balloon tied to the handle, and a handwritten note. "We love you so much, sweet girl. Grandma and Grandpa." I drove straight to the school, told the office not to allow any more deliveries. I didn't yell. I didn't make a scene. But inside, I was boiling. They were trying to worm their way in through Ellie because they knew I wouldn't put her in the middle of it. But now they had. That evening, Ellie told me they'd also called her on her iPad, FaceTime. I checked the settings. Sure enough, Amanda had created a new family group chat and added Ellie without asking me. The messages were all there. Videos, voice notes, even an old clip of my dad reading her a bedtime story from when she was 6. Ellie hadn't responded to any of them. I blocked every number, deleted the thread. Then I sat down and explained it to her. She didn't cry. She just asked, "Why are they acting like everything's okay?" "Because they always do," I told her. "That's how they get away with it." But they wouldn't this time. The next morning, I sent my mom a message. "I've removed Ellie from all contact. If you try to involve her again, I'll take further steps." 2 hours later, Jocelyn called me 5 times in a row. I didn't pick up. Then Amanda texted a single sentence that read like a warning. "You're making this worse than it needs to be." I took a screenshot and saved it. Not because I was afraid, but because I was done trusting them. And then, just when I thought I was tightening every thread, something snapped back. Thursday night, I got an alert from my credit monitoring service. A hard inquiry had been made. Someone tried to open a line of credit in my name. It had Amanda's address on it. I stared at the screen for a full minute before my hands started moving. I locked down everything. Bank accounts, cards, all of it. I froze my credit, filed a fraud report. Then I sent one message to Amanda. "If you've lost your mind completely, now would be the time to say so." She denied it, of course. Said it was a mistake, some mix-up with an old account. But the timing, the address, the name on the inquiry, it was a message. They weren't just angry, they were spiraling. So I made a decision. I had been holding back one more thing. One last thread they still thought they could tug on. Rent. My parents had been living in a duplex I bought 7 years ago. I let them live there practically free, paying only utilities. The lease was informal, the arrangement quiet, family trust. That night, I called my lawyer, had her draft a notice, lease terminated, 90 days. And I planned something else too, something only Ellie would see. Because while they were busy trying to break us down, I was preparing to remind my daughter who we were and who we didn't need. They thought they could erase what they did with a balloon and a sandwich. They had no idea what was coming next. The 90-day notice was delivered by courier that Monday morning. My mom signed for it. Within 10 minutes, my phone lit up like it hadn't in weeks. Missed calls from both parents. A dozen texts between Amanda and Jocelyn in the group chat. They forgot I had it muted. The panic was immediate. But I didn't answer. I didn't explain. I didn't justify. They had made choices, and now they were going to live inside the world they built. By Wednesday, my mother was leaving voicemails that shifted from shock to pleading. "Just tell us what we did wrong," she said in one. The same woman who told me not to bring Ellie to her anniversary party was now begging me to reconsider splitting up the family. I didn't respond. Thursday afternoon, Amanda showed up at Ellie's school. That crossed a line I hadn't even thought to guard. She didn't get far. The school knows me, knows the situation now. They kept her in the office until she left. I got the call 20 minutes later. Ellie didn't find out. She was in music class, thankfully, but I did, and I was done playing the silent card. I called Amanda, first time in weeks. I said one sentence. "If you go near my daughter again, you'll have to explain it to a judge." She started crying, full panic, saying she didn't mean anything by it. She just wanted to talk to her. That Ellie deserved to know this wasn't her fault. I said, "It is her fault because you made it that way." Then I hung up. The next day, Jocelyn tried to triangulate. She called from a different number and left a voicemail pretending to be one of Ellie's friends' moms, inviting her to a birthday picnic. I called the number back and it went straight to voicemail. Jocelyn's voice. I documented everything. The rent payment stopped coming. Not that there were many to begin with. My lawyer sent a follow-up about the car just to formalize the title change in case they tried to pull anything clever. She added a clause about property left on the premises. We both knew they'd make it ugly. And through it all, I kept Ellie out of the storm. I told her we were moving soon. Not us, but them. That we were going to make space for people who actually cared. She nodded and asked if we could decorate their old room into an art studio once they left. I said absolutely. That weekend, we went shopping, just the two of us. We picked out new canvases, paints, brushes, and a table that folded out for her sketching pads. We passed a travel agency booth in the mall, and I let her browse the posters. Her eyes lit up when she saw Hawaii. "Can we go here someday?" she asked. I smiled. "Not someday," I said. "Soon." Because that $6,000 they would never touch. It was already being repurposed. The trip was booked that night. First class, just for us, 5 nights, beachfront. No guilt, no drama, just a mother and daughter healing in peace. And while they scrambled to hold together their carefully manufactured image of unity, I was already planning part 6, the final break. They thought they could treat us like extras in their family photo. Now they were about to learn what it looked like when we stepped out of the frame entirely. The morning my parents were officially out of the house, I watched from my car. They didn't see me. My mom stood on the lawn, holding a plastic tub full of Tupperware and unopened mail. My dad paced while on the phone, probably trying to find someone who still owed him a favor. I didn't feel anything. Not anger, not pity, just a strange, deep silence, like a clock that had finally stopped ticking after years of noise. That same day, Ellie and I got on a plane to Maui, first class. I didn't tell her what I paid. I didn't need to. She was smiling before we even took off. And for once, I wasn't thinking about anyone else's reaction. I wasn't thinking about my mother's voice in my head whispering about wasted money, or Amanda asking why I didn't spend it on something more practical. I was thinking about how it felt to do something just for us. For once, we stayed at a resort right on the beach. Ellie collected seashells every morning. She made a new friend from Oregon who liked drawing just as much as she did. They sat under an umbrella, sharing markers and trading stickers like they'd known each other for years. Every night we tried something new. Grilled pineapple, poi, even shaved ice with Lee Hing powder that made her squint and laugh. And on the 4th night, we opened the scrapbook. She didn't cry. She flipped through it slowly, then closed it and said, "I'm glad we kept it. I just don't want to give it to them anymore." So we kept it. It's hers now. Always was. Meanwhile, back home, Amanda posted a photo of her kids at the same park they held the anniversary party in. The caption said, "Family isn't perfect, but it's forever." I didn't respond. Jocelyn texted twice with lines that were clearly copy-pasted apologies. My mom emailed Ellie again, this time with photos of her garden and a message about missing her smile. I deleted all of it, without hesitation, without guilt. They still think time will fix this. They still don't realize it's not about a misunderstanding or a party. It's about years. Years of using me, ignoring us, and assuming we'd always forgive just because we always had. But we won't, not anymore. I replaced the car with a new one, in my name. I changed my banking info. I updated my emergency contacts. Quiet things, but they matter because I'm done building bridges they just set fire to. Anyway, on our last night in Maui, I surprised Ellie. A small dinner on the beach, just the two of us. 2 gifts wrapped on her plate. She opened the smaller one first, a bracelet with a little charm that said us. No initials, no date, just that word. The second was the tablet she'd been dreaming about, loaded with art apps, music, blank space. I told her it was for her. No shared accounts, no messages from people who don't deserve access to her. She said, "This is way better than that party." And I knew that was the real ending. They lost us. We didn't run. We just stopped waiting at the door. Will I write more updates? I don't know. Maybe. Honestly, I'm just grateful anyone read this far. Grateful that someone out there gets it. Because this isn't just about family. It's about finally drawing a line and refusing to step back over it, no matter how many people call it a shame. But if anything happens, if they try anything, or if something unexpected blows up again, I'll be right back here, I promise.